Hernan Cortes and His Conquering of Mexico by Michael Gazzardi. Hernan Cortes was a Spanish explorer and conquistador, and was famously known for his march across Mexico and his conquering of the Aztec Empire. In 1485, Cortes was born into a poor family in Medellin, Spain. He was highly educated as his parents sent him to the University of Salamanca at the age of 14 to study law. Dropping out 2 years later, Cortes thought he could become rich by moving to the New World in the Americas, and travelled to San Domingo on the island of Hispaniola, now known as the Dominican Republic in Haiti, in 1504. As his father taught him swordplay and horseback riding, Cortes became a conquistador. At the age of 25, Hernan Cortes met a well-known conquistador named Diego Velázquez. Cortes was offered and joined Velázquez's conquest of Cuba. When the Spanish arrived, the native tribes on the island of Cuba were easily defeated against the more advanced weapons the Spanish army obtained. The conquest was successful, and Velázquez was named the governor of Cuba, and gave all the conquistadors, including Cortes, land on the island. Cortes was also named Magistrate of Santiago, and became a very important person on the island. After Velázquez's conquering of Cuba, he was given a task by the King of Spain to discover more country west, by sending conquistadors to Mexico. In 1518, an expedition took place, but the leader failed to return on time, so Velázquez demanded another expedition to Mexico. So he could attend, Hernan Cortes mortgaged and sold all his belongings to fund the expedition, and in return, Velázquez named him the Captain General. Hernan Cortes was eager to go to Mexico after hearing of the ancient empire of the Aztecs. He was certain that the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, a city built on an island in the middle of a lake, held all the gold, jewels, and riches of the New World, and wanted to become rich from it. Tenochtitlan was ruled by Montezuma. He was a mean and inspired citizens through fear. Some citizens couldn't even look into his eyes, or they would be killed. Hernan Cortes and his army first arrived in Cozumel on the Yucatan coast in February 1519. When Cortes arrived in Cozumel, he prepared his men and weapons and was ready to go to battle. He met a Mayan tribe who tells him about a Spanish who was being held prisoner called Aguilar. Aguilar was part of one of the earlier expeditions to Mexico, but was taken prisoner after he survived when his army's ship sank. When they meet Aguilar, they find out he can speak both Spanish and the local Mayan language. Cortes finds him valuable and brings him on the expedition, and is now able to communicate with other local Mayan tribes in Mexico. As Cortes sails around the Yucatan coast, he arrives in Patonchan. Again, he prepares his men and invades the tribe. As they were defeated, the Mayans gave Cortes money and gold. He also meets a woman named Malinche, who can speak both Mayan and Aztec. As Aguilar knows how to speak Spanish and Mayan, Cortes suddenly obtained a powerful translating team. Cortes can translate his Spanish to Aztec through Aguilar and Malinche and communicate with Montezuma. In April 1519, Hernan Cortes sailed through the Gulf of Mexico to a village near the coast. There he found villagers forced to pay taxes to Montezuma. Using this to his benefit, he created an alliance with the villagers, who helped him to conquer Montezuma. What Cortes didn't know is that Montezuma was spying on him since he landed in Mexico. Montezuma knew Cortes was approaching, and sent gifts of gold to him, thinking he would turn back and not march inland, but he didn't. There were many reasons why Montezuma didn't want Cortes to come to Tenochtitlan. One was because of the time of year. The Aztecs were in the time of year when they would farm and grow crops, meaning Montezuma wasn't prepared for war. He hadn't retrained the armies or prepared storing food. The city was in a weak position. Cortes had also come on a special year where, according to the Aztec calendar, the bearded god Quetzalcoatl will return to Tenochtitlan in a ship from the east to take over the throne. As Cortes was bearded and came from the east in a ship, Montezuma thought Cortes was a god and couldn't be killed. Using Montezuma's misunderstanding to his advantage, Cortes announced to his troops they will immediately keep marching inland towards Tenochtitlan. Unfortunately, most of them were surprised this was happening and began talking openly about rebelling. To make sure none of his army planned to retreat, Cortes burnt all his ships. Because of this, Cortes was also unable to resupply his army. After Cortes's long march to the capital, they arrive at the island of Tenochtitlan. Countless times of Montezuma trying to persuade the conquistador to turn back did not work, so Montezuma, thinking he was a god, treated Cortes's arrival like a royal ceremony. With his translator Malinche, Cortes gets to communicate with Montezuma in person for the first time. Montezuma shows Cortes and his troops around the city, including the human sacrifice temple. After seeing that area, Cortes's troops try to convince him that Montezuma will use them as a sacrifice. Not wanting to risk their lives, they take Montezuma as a prisoner in his house. Cortes's army transformed the city, destroying Aztec idols and sacrificing areas, and replacing them with religious Catholic icons. While the transformation was underway, Cortes found out that another Spanish expedition had landed on the shores of Veracruz. The expedition was sent by Diego Velázquez from Cuba, and told the Captain General Panfilo Narvaez to find Cortes and kill him. Cortes and his army travelled to Veracruz and persuaded the soldiers to join him and live in Tenochtitlan. A fight did begin, but by the end of the night, Narvaez was wounded and his army officially joined Cortes's. Back in Tenochtitlan, another riot was formed after the Spanish conquistadors at the capital thought the Aztecs were planning a surprise attack. The Spanish began killing the Aztec citizens. When Cortes returned, he had to fight his way back into the city. To control the citizens, the Spanish decided to release Montezuma. It is puzzling what happened to Montezuma after he came out to calm down his people. According to the Spanish, Montezuma was killed when the Aztecs started throwing rocks at him and later on dying from the wounds. The Aztecs said the Spanish stabbed him after they found out he was of no use. In the end, Montezuma was killed and the Aztecs were able to push the conquistadors out of the city. Cortes lost half of his army. This day is now referred to as La Noche Triste, or the Sad Night. After the Sad Night, Cortes was more eager than ever to conquer Tenochtitlan. He returned to an allied city called Tlaxcala, where he retrained his army. Cortes wanted to maintain control of the lake Tenochtitlan was situated in. He built small boats in Tlaxcala, but most importantly, created friendships with tribes around the lake. With his army fully recovered, he begins carrying the three main bridges to the city with his army and sailed ships all around Tenochtitlan. Over a 3-month period, the conquistadors made daily invades into the city, slowly destroying buildings. After the new ruler of Tenochtitlan, Montezuma's cousin, was captured after trying to escape, the Spanish had successfully conquered the Aztec capital. After the conquering, Tenochtitlan was slowly transformed into modern-day Mexico City. The lake around the city is covered and a church is built in the center of the city. The significance of this event still lives today. The population of Mexico is Spanish, and the majority of the population is Catholic, having the second highest Catholic population in the world. Cortes becomes one of the richest conquistadors in New Spain, and, even though it was later not respected very much when he returned to Spain, his conquest of Mexico proved he was a successful conqueror and is still signified as an important event today.